Good evening and welcome to St Margaret's. Welcome to what will be our last recital before Easter. And it's lovely, we've got some new people here performing for us tonight. And a great chance to celebrate International Women's Day last week and Mothering Sunday tonight with some songs written by women, and our guests tonight will explain more about their programme as we go along. But would you please welcome Tamara and Panaretos.
Can you hear me if I speak thus, or do I need a microphone? I'm fine, okay. So this song that you just heard, this cheery little number, is attributed to Anne Boleyn. It was found in the room that she resided at the Tower of London before her execution. And it was typical of women of that time to receive a music education and compose their own songs. So this is what you might have heard by a woman composer such as they were of that time. This is the wonderful Tamara Stein who put together this program. We are both very passionate about championing women composers. My journey started about 7 years ago when I was invited to do an all-female program, and I never looked back. There's some delicious repertoire out there. We hope you will enjoy what we've prepared for you today. Now, we're, as I said, very passionate about it, and as such, we have done a lot of research and have looked into all those composers' lives and circumstances. So we might bore you with some details, which hopefully will inspire you to go and do your own research in turn. The next number is by Francesca Caccini, I will pass the baton on to Tamara, who will tell you much more about those pieces. We have prepared a program of about 2 hours of music in general together. So this is a selection of just a few little bonbons, as we call them. Francesca Caccini wrote an opera called The Liberation of Ruggero from Alcina's Island, and it's the first opera we know attributed to a woman composer. And from that, there is a song of the shepherd. While Alcina is away attending to her business, she is a witch and a queen, and she has a kingdom and has enslaved with her witchery the poor Ruggero, and the shepherd lulls him to sleep. Now, Tamara will tell you a few more things about this and more things later. We hope you enjoy our program.
Yeah, so this opera was not only the first opera attributed to a woman, and we believe Francesca wrote 5 in total at least, and she wrote a lot of other vocal works and entertainments, they used to call it. She was very, very popular. She was a gifted singer, played multiple instruments. She toured through the court in Florence. She was employed by the Medicis, like her parents. She had 3 dukes that employed her. The second one who employed her, Cosimo II, made her the highest paid musician at court when she was 37. And you might have read somewhere that she died roughly in the 30s. However, what happened is that she actually got married for a second time. So Caccini is her husband's name, and she kept that name legally, but her husband was a nobleman called Raffaelli, and she actually appeared with that name. And that ended sort of in the 40s. So we don't know if she maybe married someone else at that point, because when her second husband died, so she had a first husband, he died, he was a singer, they had a daughter, Marguerite, she became a singer, and she married again. She married a guy called Tommaso, her son was called Tommaso that she had with him, and because he was of some sort of social standing, she wasn't really allowed to perform in public anymore, but as soon as he died, she went back to her old beau, said, Cosimo, can I have my old job back? And he did give her old job back. So this opera, as Panaretos said, was performed in Florence to celebrate the later king of, at that time, not really the crown prince because Polish kings were elected, but he became king of Poland, and he spoke fluent Italian. He was sent on his grand tour by his dad, and he enjoyed opera so much, he took it back to Poland, and it was the first Italian opera performed outside Italy, and the first opera performed in Poland, and many came afterwards. So let's start with the song.
Oh
very hard to read my music. Thank you so much. The next song is by Louise Reichardt, and she was actually German, North German. But I've included her because this song is in Italian. It's by Metastasio, who was a really, 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 really famous librettist of the time, and a lot of operas have written to his text or versions of his text, even as late as Mozart. It's like an Deathe, I think it's after. It's sort of the last one I can recall, but it was really, he was the libretto composer, and you will find a lot in the 1730s by him. Louise had, she was a singer and a teacher and a composer. She was a lady who started a music school for women in Hamburg. Originally she was in Berlin, and she was 4 years old when her mom died, and she was very ill with the pox, and she was very, very scarred in her face. But she met two men, and the first one was a painter, and he died, he was a poet, and he died in a mountaineering accident. And then she found love again, and that was a painter, and he went to Italy on a business trip, a study trip, and he died there. So I thought it was very interesting to have this song, which is talking about being abandoned, that not always the abandonment comes from, being left. Sometimes the person is not willfully leaving you, they die. So this was, she's very, very interesting because she taught herself the piano, the harp, the lute, and the guitar by herself, which is absolutely amazing. And she actually, as a young woman, was a refugee through the Napoleonic Wars. Her house was ransacked, her family home, and they lived around. So she has quite some life experience that I find really interesting to see in her work. And very, very interesting, she was a champion of Handel and Bach, and especially in Hamburg, where she later lived.
Se non piange un'infelice da viventi separato, dalla sposa abbandonata, e oddio che poter chi piange torto, se ne sbarra felice, questo misero conforto, questo misero conforto, questo misero conforto, not eterna e trui pietà, not eterna e trui pietà, se non piange un'infelice dallo sposo abbandonata, temo Dio che piangerà, temo Dio che piangerà, oh Dio, oh Dio.
So the next two songs are by two German ladies from two different parts of Germany. So the first one, Clara Schroter. Clara Schroter is really interesting because she wrote, so she was called at the court of Weimar, and she was very, she came from a musical family. She did her debut at the Gewandhaus with 14 as a singer, and she very much impressed Goethe when she was a teenager. Now Goethe had a very, from our point of view, wrong relationship with women, and especially young women. And the thing with Corona was that Corona, put it that way, she never married, and she lived with a lady called Wilhelmine Prost, who was at her side when she died. So he probably barked up the wrong tree there. However, she, interestingly, when she was very young, they went to Warsaw, and then she moved to Leipzig, where she studied singing, and as a teenager. And because Goethe was so impressed with her, and that in Germany there are lots of books about the secret love of Goethe, Clara Schroter, and I thought, yeah, maybe. Anyway, Goethe was so impressed with her, he offered her parts as an actress, as a singer, and he wrote this singspiel called the Fisherwoman, and she wrote all the music that she was singing in herself. This piece is from this operetta or Singspiel, and it's called Für Männer uns zu plagen, which is sort of the eternal refrain of women, I think, through the world, to this day, and probably in the future and way back. The second song I will sing in this German set is from Josephine Lang. She was a child prodigy in Munich, and her godfather, after whom she was named, was Stieler, and he was a very, very famous court painter. He painted the Schönheitsgalerie under Ludwig I and his dad. And in that house, a lot of artists came in and went. And when poor Josephine's mom died, when she was 12, Josephine had to go out and earn a living, and so she became a teacher at that very early age. And she started composing when she was 5, and she actually, through her godfather, met Mendelssohn, who thought she was very, very talented. Mendelssohn was on tour. He thought she was very, very talented. Introduced her to the Schumanns, who were music publishing at the time. And he tried to persuade her father that when she was 15, she should go to Berlin and study, and her father turned her down. Her father died in 1839, so when she was still very young, and she had a nervous breakdown of some sort. She's always been slightly sickly from birth, and the former Empress of Austria, who was actually a Bavarian princess, suggested to go to their personal spa. So the royal family of Bavaria had a personal spa, and as you do. And so she went there, and it was actually, you could go there for many, many years and be just a Kurgast. However, she met a lawyer there who also wrote poetry and plays. He was called Köstlin, but he published under his middle name, Reinhold. The problem with Köstlin was that he got very, very busy with writing for the theatre, as well as being later first a practicing solicitor, and then later a professor at the University in Tübingen, so she had to move to Baden-Württemberg, Württemberg in those days. And he became ill. He had TB that went into his throat and never went away, so he died fairly soon in their relationship. It was a kind of stormy relationship anyway, and he died, and she was really struggling, and the Schumanns helped her a bit to get her music out and going, and she had a disabled son who died. Then she had a second son who was the first son, Felix Mendelssohn Bartholdy, his godfather. He was very, very gifted. He died after basically going insane. He had a massive psychosis at the age of 20, was put in a mental home and died there. Then the disabled boy that was disabled from birth died, and then her last child died. Her third boy died, and the same year, 3 months later, she died. And then her fourth son published her music. But it's a really tragic life. And she's called her music, her composing, her diary. And this is from a happier time. The song that I will be singing after the moaning about man.
Right.
Sind leider wir bestimmt. Wir lassen sie gewähren, wir folgen ihren Willen, und wären sie nur dankbar, so wär noch alles gut, so wär noch alles gut. Der Unmut zuweilen, stille heißt es, stille Liebesherz. Aber ich will auch nicht länger allen ihren Grillen folgen, alles mir gefallen lassen, will auf meinen Kopf tun. Ich will auch nicht länger allen ihren Grillen folgen, alles mir gefallen lassen, will auf meinen Kopf tun.
Malibran kind of definitely was a citizen of the world. She was born in France to a Spanish family, but she traveled all over Europe to perform as a singer. And for her, writing music was a hobby. Like others said, Netflix and chill, and she wrote wonderful music. The interesting thing is, and why I've picked this song, Malibran liked to travel disguised as a man. And she was a fierce horsewoman, which is ultimately what killed her. She was pregnant and she rode madly on a horse in Hyde Park. She was in England. And then she fell off it, and it's an absolutely horrific accident. And she just got up and decided to carry on. And people said, please have you checked over. She didn't, and 3 months later, she actually died in agony. So please, if you ever fall off a horse, please have yourself checked out. This song is actually, I'm a man, I'm a leader of a gang. And it might feel a bit like the third act of Carmen, so I hope you enjoy it. And then I brought a song that is by Amy Beach and doesn't sound like it's by Amy Beach, and I chose it for that reason. It's a kind of a silly spring number. Amy Beach is an amazing woman. She was the first woman to sort of write a symphony that was performed. She was repeatedly booked to write music for the World Exhibition. She was the ambassador for music for America, for the US, in 1893 or something. And she was so amazing. When she was 2 years old, she started to have harmonize with songs she heard at the age of 2. She had perfect pitch. She was a child prodigy. She started composition at the age of 4. And she debuted at the age of 16. And again, one of these women who are largely self-taught. She had piano lessons, she had a bit of music theory. She learned how to orchestrate from a book by Berlioz that was on instruments. I mean, that woman was just amazing. So, sadly, and this is with both ladies, they had really horrible relationships with their husband. Malibran was married to a banker who went bankrupt. And he was much, much older than her, and so she left him ultimately. And she then hooked up with a violin virtuoso and for years tried to divorce this man. And he actually, even after she had a baby with another man, he turned up and wanted money from her, he wanted alimony from her. So she went on strike and never performed in France again. And Amy Beach also had a really horrible husband who forbade her to perform bar once a year, and the money has to go to charity. So this is also why Panaretos Plagen is part of this program. So let's start with some bandits on the road.
Les voici, cachez-vous, entendez, mon signal, c'est là. Près du rocher, pas avant du silence. On s'approche, écoutez, c'est le pas d'un cheval c'est le beau que je veux. Voyez, ils sont dans nous, l'amour et la chance, l'amour et la chance, de l'or, entendez-vous de l'or, l'amour et la chance, entendez-vous de l'or, entendez-vous de l'or, de l'or. Allons, Petro de l'or bu, ton mariage de bien que t'aimes. Angelo porta ce vieil gégé des bijoux pour prêter ton courage. Armez vos pistolets, les deux noirs odoreux, et du sang, mais beaucoup d'or, mais beaucoup d'or. Entendez-vous de l'or? Voyez, ils sont dans nous, l'amour et la chance, l'amour et la chance, de l'or, de l'or, entendez-vous de l'or, l'amour et la chance, de l'or, entendez-vous de l'or.
have to say too much about Clara Schumann. Very, very interesting life. Please look it up. Interestingly, she was actually the first female composer, or the only female composer that was taught to us in school in the 90s. So, and she was on our old 100 Deutschmarks. So she was probably the first female composer I encountered. And this song is after Reichardt, Warum, willst, fragen, which there's a lot of different interpretations of this song, so please make up your own version. The other one is another very famous lady, is by Alma Mahler, who had her life is very interesting, and it's very much nature and nurture question about her life and why she behaved the way she behaved. Everyone advised her not to marry Mahler, and she's him and her, and everyone was against his marriage, and they probably should have listened. Mahler didn't like her composing and forbade her to compose, and then he discovered that she had hidden away some music, and then sort of forced her to publish it. A lot of the music she wrote is actually not around anymore. We only have a few songs, and we know through her biography and the writings she had that she wrote a lot more, and we don't know where it is. I like this song, and especially written by Alma Mahler, is because it's a song of people who have had sexual experiences before, but nothing like this, and this is really great. But let's start with the other one. I'm really sorry I have to drink so much. I don't know if you have programs or something, but I've got a knee, and I basically can't retain any moisture in my body, so I'm constantly drinking. So sorry about that. now we move to America. The next two ladies are from North America, from the US. The first one is Undine Moore, who is very, very respected in the musical field, but I don't think she's so known as a composer in a way. She's sort of seen as the dean of black music women composer, or black women composers. She could have gone to Juilliard, and she turned it down to work. She was very much involved in education, and she did lots of workshops on other female and black composers, and she was married to another, a doctor of, I don't know what he was a doctor of, but he was actually also a teacher. So he was a doctor and he was part of the sort of the school board, and so was she. So she's an absolutely amazing woman, and I love. So this is after a poem by Sappho, rewritten by an American guy, and the books are still out there. So you can look at his interpretation of the Sappho poems. And yeah, and the next one is.
Can I say that Sappho, in case you didn't know that, is the reason we have the term lesbian. She was like the first loudly gay woman in ancient Greece who celebrated this aspect of her life. And she lived on the island of Lesbos. I know because I'm Greek, so I've been there. And that's where the term lesbian comes from.
And I think the reason we still have her writing, or we think it's one woman, but it could have been a collection of women, is because it was used to wrap something else, wasn't it? Like something like so. It's on the back of something by a man. Florence Price, very, very interesting woman. The first Afro-American woman who had a symphony performed written a symphony and performed by a major American orchestra. This was the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. She was mixed race. Her mum was a music teacher and a singer, and her dad was the first Afro-American dentist. And she got married to a lawyer, and they moved south, and it was really horrible with all the racism down there. So she moved back to Chicago. Her marriage didn't last. They had financial problems. Her husband became abusive, and she got divorced at the age of 44. And ultimately, she moved in with the students and lived the rest of her life with this other lady and her two children from a previous marriage. Through this lady called Margaret Bonds, she met Langston Hughes, who wrote this poem, and Marian Anderson. And I'm not sure if she wrote it for Marian Anderson. It could have been that she wrote it for her, because there's some low notes in there. The interesting thing is, and this again, works not found. With Caccini, we might still find it in some library somewhere, because her music, in 2009, a lot of her music was found in an abandoned summer house that she had. And we know it's just now starting to bring it out, and in 21, I think, or Schumann bought all her music to be published.
And made it very expensive to hire.
Yes, which is a bit of a problem. But, so don't give up hope. We still might find some Mahler songs and Caccini operas. So, and fitting for this theme of thought, that song is called Hold Fast to Dreams. So, but let's get back to a bit of Greek lesson. Hang on. Let me have a sip, because this is a bit. I also have a frog in my throat. This doesn't help.
Let the wind cry on the dark mountain, bending the ash trees and the tall hemlocks with the great voice of thunderous legions. How I love Let the host torrents in the blue canyon, murmuring mightily out of the grey mist of primal chaos, cease not proclaiming how I adore thee. Let the long
song, because we're running out of time. Esther's biography is on the program. I know Esther personally, and we wrote this as a commission for a theatre company that shows especially and works in the community with people who are disabled, for example. Both Esther and I are disabled, and we wrote this when we had the first lockdown, because for us it was actually a bit of a freedom, because all of a sudden we were included in all these online things, and we were hoping that it would stay, but it didn't quite do that.
Because we're running out of time, unless Brutus gives us permission. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Okay. Well, as we wrote it, and I was keen to do it just because it's one of my favorite English composers, song composers especially, Madeleine Brink, and a song of the nightclub proprietress for a slightly lighter film.
I walked into the nightclub in the morning. There was candle on the handle of the door. The ashtrays were emptied, the cleaning unattempted, and a squashed tomato sandwich on the floor. I pulled aside the thick magenta curtains. So Regencies, my dear, and a host of little spiders ran a race across the siders to a box of baby pollies by the beer. Oh, sun upon the summer going by us, where everything is leading to the sea.
Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you to our performers. It's been a bit of a mission of the church for the last 6 months to try and decolonize and demisogynize our music, and lovely to see there are 3 composers that we had tonight that we've had music in church also from, so a real chance to celebrate women composers in church and in concerts. But really wonderful and so good to hear some of the stories of those women composers as well, and the difficulties that they had to endure to make their music heard so that we can still hear it now, in some cases a long time after. This is the last of our recitals for a few weeks. In 2 weeks' time on Palm Sunday, we have a choral service, The Last Words of Love, which is music really relating to the last words of Jesus from the cross, but very much in the sort of vein of carol services. So some of the wonderful music that we have, the Christian tradition, and not entirely written by dead white men who have been celebrated for a very long time. So a bit more varied than that, but some wonderful music to enjoy as we move into Holy Week. But for now, for this last recital before Easter, can we give another warm round of applause to our performers tonight? Thank you very much.